Hey there, nice to see you. It is time for the Bronx Buzz. This is BronxNet's program where we talk to reporters and writers and journalists and editors, people who put stuff out in the Bronx so that you can get an idea what they're thinking about, what they're writing about, kind of give us a little background into the news. And in our second segment, we're going to Van Cortlandt Park, third largest park in the city, and they have some really good news about some worldwide historical places there in the park, and we're going to get into what that's all about. But let's get started with a reporter from the Mott Haven Herald. It is Cherry Salazar. Nice to have you with us, Cherry.
Hi, it's so good to see you. How are
Nice
you?
to see you too. You have a particular piece about the South Bronx that I thought was fascinating. And but before we do that, let's meet you. So let's see. You were at the Craig Newmark School, which is where all the reporters for the Mott Haven Herald and Hunts Point Express come from. Tell me a little bit about your background. Where you're from? You from somewhere? From New
Yeah,
York?
I am actually. So I only recently moved to New York. This is my second month in New York. I moved
Wow.
here specifically
Welcome
for
aboard.
graduate education. Before that, thank you. Before that, I was an investigative and data reporter in the Philippines. So I have like over a decade of experience from back home. And then it's my first
Wow.
time in New York, which is nice.
So you came here from I wasn't aware of that. You came here from the Philippines.
Yes.
And your English is perfect, is pitch
Thank
perfect.
you.
Um, and you came 2 months ago, so you could start, I presume, starting this semester at Craig Newmark.
Yep.
The first thing was what news did you do over there? This is a fascinating story in and of itself. And so what was it like covering news across the world?
Right. So in the Philippines, I did usually long form pieces. So I was a documentary producer and I produced multiple documentaries that run about an hour. And
Wow.
I've also done investigative multimedia reporting. So that will have like maybe 3,000 words and it will run for multiple like reports in a series. That's basically what I do. And what's different about reporting for Mott Haven Herald for me is that it's hyper local. I've always done national issues, and so that's quite interesting for me. And I'm new to New York. I'm new to South Bronx in Bronx. So like it's a very new experience.
Well, one thing I will tell you, so people don't say, "Oh, she's from somewhere else." You should always call it the Bronx.
The
It's not
Bronx.
in Bronx. I mean, this is another whole show, but it was named after the Bronx River, so it's always been called the Bronx. It's
Mhm.
very 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 unusual. What motivated you? You wanted to come to New York, get the opportunity to study abroad. Do you plan to stay here, or do you think you're going to go back to the Philippines, or who knows?
I actually haven't thought that far yet. I know that most of my classmates have already decided that they want to stay in New York. I'm not really sure because
Okay.
I'm at a point in my career where I feel like I have some more room for improvement, and where I was at could not give me that. And I thought that hey, I could maybe try overseas.
Well, and
That's
certainly it would literally and figuratively broaden your horizon
Mhm.
and see, another way of doing things. Well, I appreciate the fact that you're open-minded about it, and you should leave all the options open because the world is at your feet. And so, my last question before we get into the subject matter: what turns you on about doing news? What turns you on about doing the documentaries you did? And even about covering in the Bronx, or those kinds of things. What's the guts, the motivation here?
Okay, this might be a bit idealistic, I
Oh, we
think.
love that. Hey, wouldn't it be nice to have ideas? We like ideals and ideas. That's great. Go ahead.
Yeah, so when I was a kid, I was around 8 years old. So this is a bit personal for me. I was about 8 years old, and we had the second bloodless revolution in the country that forced a former president to resign from his post, and it was triggered by a series of investigative reports. So then I thought, oh, journalism can change things, and that's how I decided I wanted
Wow.
to be one.
What a
So in
great,
a way,
that is a
that's what I
great
wanted to
story.
do. Yeah. So I was thinking of what are the social issues and how is it intersecting with political accountability, stuff like that. So
Well, I must tell you, if you want social issues and political accountability, you've come to the right place because, I've been covering the Bronx for decades, and that's what we got. I spent a lot of time doing that. All right. Well, this is this story that the bid over there in Southern Boulevard wants more cameras in the hub to curb illegal dumping. So what you have discovered is this horrible situation down there in what a lot of people call the downtown Bronx. In some ways, it's the center of life in the borough at 100. And I used to have an office down there, so I know exactly what goes on in that neighborhood. And that picture that you showed is only the tip of the iceberg, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
tell us a little bit about what you found and what the story is.
So basically, as I said earlier, everything is new to me, right? But what struck me about the Third Avenue is that it's a very busy intersection. People go there for transit, they go there for work, or they go there just because they wanted to shop or dine in new restaurants. I knew I was kind of like that. But the thing
Especially
is,
coming here from somewhere else. Yeah.
yes, exactly.
Okay, go ahead.
And the thing is, the sanitation concern actually sets that potential back. So I was walking one day, one afternoon, and I was just like talking to residents, to workers and pedestrians, and I was asking them, what do you think about sanitation in this area? And they said a bunch of things. They're very opinionated. They said that we needed more sanitation workers. We needed more trash collection times. There is an issue with the pickup. Sometimes they said the Department of Sanitation aren't picking up the trash. They said that we have illegal dumpers. They said that some businesses don't have their own bins. So there's a plethora of like different reasons why there is such a problem. And that's what got me into maybe try to look into this.
And I have to say, like any good journalist, that's how you started. You started just kind of moving around and asking questions. So the last 2 years, this is what you reported, roughly 300 cameras have been positioned in known hotspots around the city. That's interesting. My question after reading your piece, what about enforcement? I mean, is it a matter of the city enforcing itself? Because you talked about sanitation pickups. Maybe they're not regular. Maybe not the first time we've had it. They disregard the South Bronx. They disregard certain neighborhoods. We know that goes on in the Bronx. Or is it something else that one thing breeds the other? Because the sanitation department doesn't do their job, people think, people who are somewhat irresponsible think it's okay. I got to get rid of this garbage. I'll just throw it out,
Right. It's definitely not black and white. So I've had some people telling me that they feel that resources are centralized in Manhattan, and it sometimes certainly looks that way. But it's also an issue of whether the people themselves, those in the neighborhood, are disposing their garbage properly. So that's another thing. I've also heard of some things that apparently some of the garbage bins had been stolen. And we are trying to look into that for another report. So I don't want to say much
Well,
about that. But so, yeah, so it's a mix of both, actually. It's a matter of enforcement. It's also a matter of discipline to residents. And yeah, so it's not that black and white.
some people say, all right, well, there's garbage. I mean, nobody likes it. But of course, it attracts vermin.
Mm-hmm.
That's obviously. And number two, if people want to have pride in their neighborhood, if people want to, feel good about themselves, have pride in their own lives, pride in their city, I just think it's part of the whole picture that you don't say to yourself, well, we got to get rid of this garbage. Just put it here, right in the center of where, it's the busiest thoroughfare in New York City. I think there's 250,000 people that go through 149th and 3rd Avenue every day. Now, let's see, you said there were more than 200 illegal dumping summonses issued so far this year. On one hand, that sounds like a lot, but considering the pictures that we just saw, boy, they probably could do a heck of a lot more. And so we don't really know, just back to my original question, we don't really know what kind of enforcement or if the cameras themselves have really turned out, had effect, I guess.
Yeah.
But-
And we also have to point out that those numbers that you mentioned earlier, those are from the Department of Sanitation, and those are citywide numbers. So we're not
Thank you for pointing that out.
talking about just Third Avenue.
Wow.
So we don't know how much is actually like the summons says in the Bronx, how much have been how much maybe illegal dumpers they've caught doing that because of the cameras. We do know that in 2022 there have been 15 security cameras that were installed. So that's what the issue is about. The Third Avenue bid is hopeful that if there are more cameras, then there are more chances to maybe catch them and like identify these illegal dumpers.
One of the other things in that particular neighborhood, which I know you know, and you mentioned it in your piece, is the whole notion of discarded syringes. Now that is aside from the garbage it is, and the unit, which is is going to last, probably be at the bottom of our oceans for generations to come. But that's very dangerous. I mean, you could have somebody pick it up or somebody trip over it, and because there's chemicals on it, that's bad. That's really bad garbage. Is there any particular effort in that regard, or is that just piled up with all the other garbage?
So in St. Mary's Park, I know that there were
Yes.
some boxes that had been installed specifically for this kind of trash, but we are not sure right now if that is included in the efforts of the Department of Sanitation when it comes to making probably a better improved enforcement in terms of the problem in the area. The thing is, Department of Sanitation apparently, and this is only something that I learned while I was doing the story, apparently cannot collect the garbage if there are these hazardous
If there are what?
if there are these hazardous items. So we're talking about
Oh,
used syringes and needles. That's an entirely different agency
wow.
that is in charge of that. So what happens now is they have to
fascinating.
have this other agency to come and pick up and maybe isolate this hazardous trash, and then the sanitation department comes again
Right,
and
and
picks up
going,
the trash. Yeah.
wow. Yeah, and I hate to bring this up because it almost puts a finite period at the end of the sentence, and that is, given the state of the mayor's mayoralty right now and all the people who have left. I think I read a story about there are a number of agencies that are quite understaffed and underfunded because of this whole mess. So who knows? Anyway, we got about 30 seconds left. So your next task is going to expand on this concept of sanitation and pickups and dumping in the Bronx. That's what you're working on?
Not really.
Oh,
I
okay.
am working on quite a lot of things. I mean,
All right, that's fair.
I am looking right now into possibly working on a story about luxury apartments in Mount Haven Herald.
Oh.
Can't give so much details yet.
You listen, we got to run, but you have stepped right in the center of it. And we're going to look for everything that you write, and you put some stuff out. We'll have you back, and we'll analyze it the next time as well. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Cherry Salazar, she clearly not only has a past, but a future in journalism. And if we're lucky, she will stick around in the Bronx and work with us. Thank you so much, Cherry.
Thank you.
And thank our buddies at the Mount Haven Herald. We'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to Van Cortlandt Park. Don't go away.
.7% of Bronxites currently experience food insecurity. Meanwhile, instead of these nice, colorful foods, this is the best food that they have access to. If this sounds like you, there are a bunch of resources to get healthy food for free or cheap. If you want to help, you might consider donating or volunteering in one of these places. Community fridges like this one are all over the city, and allow New Yorkers to conveniently donate extra food to people who might need it. Go to this link and find your nearest one. Food banks and pop-up events like these provide millions of healthy meals to families in need. These organizations are distributing meals to Bronxites as we speak, and are always accepting donations and volunteers.
Okay, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. We thank Colin for joining us. And now we're going to do something that is just an incredible advancement in the culture of the Bronx, and where else but from Van Cortlandt Park. Let's say good evening to the Deputy Director of the Van Cortlandt Park Alliance, my longtime buddy and friend. It is Christina Taylor. Nice to see you always, Christina.
Always wonderful to see you.
Nice to have you with us. And she brought along Ashley Hart Adams, who's the Arts Integration Specialist at the Van Cortlandt Park Alliance. Always good to see you too, Ashley.
Great to see you. Thanks for having us.
So here's the big news. We're gonna mention the news, and then Christina will tell us what the heck is going on. The Mellon Foundation has provided, hold your breath, a $310,000 two-year grant to request for proposals to help formulate a design plan for the enslaved people's burial ground in Van Cortlandt Park. Yay. It's
Yay.
Been a long time coming. Christina, tell us how exciting this really is, and try not to tell us how long we've been working to try. And I should mention, as both of them know, I'm on the board of the Van Cortlandt Park Alliance as well. But Christina, the floor is yours. We're so happy. What are we getting? What are we doing?
Thank you. Yeah, we're absolutely thrilled that we're finally at this point. We have been working on it for a while. So we've been working on trying to bring to light the true history of the enslaved people who helped build what we now know as Van Cortlandt Park. And one of the aspects has been the enslaved people burial ground and getting that renamed at our original Juneteenth ceremony several years ago. And, you know, looking at this site, and we've been doing some work on it and really trying to improve it, but there's only so much we can do in-house. So we are very happy to have this grant from the Mellon Foundation that will give us the ability to bring in an outside consulting firm to really help us and guide us in the process, because it's very important for us to have community engagement. We want the community to have a say in what this is going to happen at this site. So we'll be working with the community over the next year or so to bring them in to get some input and some ideas of how this site could eventually evolve.
If you walk by there, which I have done, as you know, numerous times, if you walk by there, it's very overgrown. You have seen this video before, Christina. I don't think Ashley has, and it's going to be very enlightening for her. In 1995, when the Parks was thinking of putting tennis courts in that area, in that part of Van Cortlandt Park, I did a story about the burial ground with the Kingsbridge Historical Society. And at that time, because now, as you know, Ashley and Christina, it is all overgrown, but we were able to see the actual gravestones of the burial ground. So Anderson, through the magic of video, let's just take a look. This goes back, 20, 25 years, maybe even more, of a story I did in Van Cortlandt Park, where you can see the actual stones. So this is not just pretend, they're really there. Let's take a look.
We have 1,200 acres here, and out of the whole park, this is probably one of the richest areas in historical aspects and sites, probably of all New York City. There's a pre-colonial burial ground that was started in the late 1600s. Farther east of that is a Negro slave burial ground. Any other site in New York State and New York City would love to have something from Indians to the Dutch to the Revolution to the burial ground. It's all right here. And again, out of 1,200 acres, I think they could leave these 5 acres or thereabout free for history. What you're looking at now is just a remnant of one of the headstones that was on the site. There was just stumps left. There's one here, there's one here, there is another one right over here. They run through as we would normally bury people in line. And throughout this whole site, it is just full of stones, which are the headstones of the burial ground.
So there you go. Ashley, what do you think? So it's really covered over, and 25 years ago, if you walk through the park, you could say, wait a minute, and it's never been acknowledged. And now this is why it's just so wonderful. It's so perfect. It's called, Christina mentioned the new name. It's the Enslaved African in Kingsbridge Burial Ground. Ashley, what are your hopes as the design arts integration specialist? What is your hope for taking this plot of land? What do you hope to do with it?
Our hope is through this project that we're able to engage Bronx-based and really New York City-based artists to work alongside the community to really get feedback from them and hear, what are you hoping to see through this project? What are you hoping to experience through reimagining what this enslaved African burial ground could look like in the future? I think that there's a history that's needing to be reckoned with, in this area, but also nationwide. And I'm really pleased with the progress that we're making. It's really moving to, see how long there's been, acknowledgement or stories about the enslaved African burial ground. To come this far and to continue pushing through, we really would like to engage the community on what they're hoping the destination of that place to be.
And so, we're all proud of getting the grant from the Mellon Foundation, $310,000. You were telling me just before the show. So what is the process that the people of the Bronx are going to be able to have input on what's going on here?
Yes, we'd love for everyone to go to our website, which is vancortlandt.org/EPP, EPP standing for Enslaved People Project, and sign up for our community workshops. These are opportunities for you to really engage in incredible arts-based activities and for us to get your feedback on what you're hoping to see through this project, and that the community will continue to come to our community events. Events like our Juneteenth event, that has continued to get larger and larger. We
have some pictures and video and stuff that I took at this year's. So go ahead, you keep talking, and Anderson's going to roll those pictures and video. Go ahead.
We'd love to. We actually renamed the Enslaved African Burial Ground on our first Juneteenth event in June of 2021, which is actually the year that it became a national holiday as well. So that event has just gotten bigger and bigger. At that very first event, we consecrated that land. We did a libation ceremony. We had African drumming and engaged in a lot of the traditions of the enslaved Africans. And we've kept up that tradition ever since. And it's gotten larger and larger and larger. We were so pleased with the turnout last year.
Oh, it was wild. Yeah, it was great.
We always invite everyone to those events. And those are also opportunities for folks to really engage with us. And we have more coming up soon.
You know what I loved? And I literally was standing there, I was watching. I might have even been standing next to you, Christina. And there was a Black woman, an older woman, who was so overcome. Now I'm going to get emotional about it. She was so overcome of being there, and everybody was laying a rose on top of the graves, and she prayed, and oh my goodness, that's what it means to people. This is not just a little thing. Christina, so once all the workshops are done and the community has had its say, and Ashley is doing her magic and everything's going on, I guess there needs to be an infusion of more money to actually build the thing out. I mean, you can't create a museum, so to speak, unless you get more money, right? So this is what the process is going to be.
So yeah, this is phase one. The phase one is to get the community input, to get some design ideas. The next phase is, we do have to remember that this is on New York City Parks property. So yes, we have to work hand in hand with parks throughout this process. So at the end of this phase one, we'll have some ideas and we'll have input from the community that will help guide the process to determine what the final product should be, and hopefully have, those designs to inspire people and to hopefully help us raise the funding needed to make this happen.
Research found that the enslaved African indigenous people worked on the Van Cortlandt plantation for over 100 years, and they were buried at the site adjacent to the family, according to, of course, this project, which documents the history of the plantation. What we used to know as Van Cortlandt Lake is now Hester and Pierrot's Mill Pond, all in honor of the people who built it, who are without them, we got nothing. I want to show the people who are watching us. I was walking by there, and I ran into our friend Noel, who was working with interns, and you can see in comparison to the bare stones what it looks like now and why it needs, to really become something special. So let's just take a look at me and Noel hanging out in Van Cortlandt. Video. Say your name and who you are, and I see the Van Cortlandt Park Alliance on your display. What are you doing today here at the Enslaved People's Burial?
I'm Noel from the Van Cortlandt Park Alliance. I'm the volunteer coordinator, and today we're working on the Enslaved People's Burial Ground. We're tidying it up, getting it ready for winter.
Why do you need to get it ready for winter?
We'd like to give it just a kind of last. This is our last push of the season, so we'd like to take the opportunity to spread some wood chips out, which can provide some nutrients for the soil over the winter. It can also help with water retention for the soil, and we're doing a bit of invasive species control in the back there with a group of French exchange students from Lehman College.
Very nice. And these guys were working with you as they just walked away?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thanks, Noel, for helping us save the world.
Thank you, Gary.
All right, there you go. So that was just obviously an informal video, not a TV video, but it really shows the comparison how overgrown in the 25 years. The original video that I showed. Christina, so what should people look out for? First of all, they should come to Van Cortlandt Park, period. You should always be in Van Cortlandt Park. Like I do. But Christina, what do we want to tell people right now that they should look out for so that they can participate in this and we can really make it our own, so to speak?
So we're hoping by early 2025 that we'll be doing these community workshops. So for now, people can go to our vancortlandt.org, our EPP page, and sign up to be a part of those community workshops to get notices about them. Also, we will be doing a poetry reading with David Mills, who is a local poet who's going to be publishing a book based on Bronx slavery. And he's going to do a reading at the museum on December 17th. So we hope everyone can come out for that. And also, Ashley's been doing some amazing educational programs with school groups, unearthing the past, building the future.
Bring out our kids.
I
want to just give Ashley a chance to speak. I don't mean to cut you off, but we're running out of time. Ashley, your vision is that this is going to, I used the word museum before, that this is really going to be a special place, isn't it?
My vision is that it's going to be a destination and that it's going to be an opportunity to honor the enslaved people who were inhabiting this land in a real proper way. And to add on to what Christina was saying, in the immediate to engage even young people, we're hoping that teachers will reach out through the EPP page and join some of our educational programming, which is happening right now.
Nothing makes me happier when I walk through the park when I see school kids there, because there's so much to do. There's so much to learn. We get the kids out of school and we teach them about life in Van Cortlandt Park. Christina, you know how I feel. Have a great day. Thank you for joining us. And Ashley, you too. We're going to look to you for your vision. That's really important.
Thank you so much.
Great. Okay, we're going to say goodnight then. And that'll be the end of the program. And, if the curtain don't fall and the creek don't rise, we'll see you next week. And we'll build up Van Cortlandt Park, third largest park in New York City. Good night.